Hi everyone, we are back on Big Data Masterclasses. I've got the opportunity and the pleasure to have Ted Dunning from MAPR, also Data Technologies. Welcome to Big Data Masterclasses.
Well, howdy.
We are very interested to speak about the data. We just spoke with Ellen about the technology framework, the technology side. Your company have built the future, and the future is now, as you mentioned. I've got one question I would like to ask you.
Okay.
What will be the future of the future? I mean, like this, in quite half a decade, all industries are going to go forward, or some of them leaders beyond the data transformation. But the business, as usual, has to be business. And what kind of services providers or technology firms could bring to the ecosystem in the next decade? What will be the future of future?
Well, to look at the future of the future, we need to look a little bit at a progression. Right now, we inhabit the future of the past, what used to be the future. But in fact, of course, what we thought of as the future in the past is not what we got. Then, of course, we now need to look at the future of the present as well as we can, and then we attach to the future of the future. So already the future of the past is not what we expected. We expected monorails and flying cars and things like that. People assumed that the same technologies that had an enormous advance up to now, or up to then, would continue to advance in exactly the same ways. They thought that the advance of aerodynamics and aerospace would continue in the same vein. But that isn't what happened at all. What happened is we changed tracks. We achieved a technological optimum with certain kinds of devices and certain kinds of techniques, and then we changed into modifying the future with computation. Now, computation has had an amazing run, but the future is not going to be a direct and simple extrapolation of the present. It is not going to be the same kind of changes that we've seen up to this point. And one thing we need to realize is that up until maybe 5 to 10 years ago, computer science was essentially a theoretical discipline. And what I mean by that is that computers were so incapable that there was no practical computer science. It was all theoretical with a tiny thing we could do with the computers that we had. Very, very little was feasible. And so what we have now is very, very different from what we expected to have, because the growth in computation has been so dramatic. And the growth has been so different than just making one computer bigger. And one of the trends that we see now being absolutely established is that we do not have 1 million intelligent entities running inside computers interacting with 1 million people, or 1 billion, or whatever number we like. What we have instead is millions of people, perhaps hundreds of millions, interacting with one networked intelligent entity. And this is very, very different than 1 million intelligent entities. We are able to learn, in the first instance, not so much by artificial intelligence, but by reflected intelligence. You behave in some interesting and intelligent way. The computer records that and says, somebody did that. And if it then sees a pattern of this kind of action, it'll reflect that intelligent action to me, and I think the computer is intelligent. This is reflected intelligence, and that is orders of magnitude easier than true artificial intelligence. And I think that over the next 5 to 10 years, what people call artificial intelligence will drop away a little bit, and what they will be building, in many cases, will be reflected intelligence. They may not call it that, but it will not be truly artificial intelligence where somebody, by their own artifice, has created an intelligent being. It will be reflected. in the sense that these intelligent beings will observe the universe, make sense out of it, and reflect that sense back at different users. So that's one aspect of our future that is different than our past's future. Now, if you ask for the future of the future, this is a very hard question to answer, except that it will not be what we expect. And especially when people extrapolate from what we have now, from the very modest beginnings of parallel computing, the very modest beginnings of machine learning in imagery or sound or things like that, it will not be what we see. We see bits of that future arriving already. William Gibson's famous phrase that the future is here, it's just not distributed equally. So we see little bits of the future. We see visual translators that augment our reactions and what we see with translations of what we see or labelings of what we see, enhancements of the information that we see. But we will see a lot more of that in much more fabulous ways than we expect. We also will see a better ecosystem with human and machines working together. It is not that machines will replace always what humans do. The machines will be used as tools by humans and humans as tools by machines, so that we will see composite organizations where humans' intellectual capacities will be used in new ways. We do not memorize great epic poems anymore. That aspect of our cognitive capacity is severely underutilized. We don't do that anymore. And there will be other things that we just do not do anymore, but we will make use instead of the capacities of the machines to handle those tasks, and then our capacities to handle other tasks. And we will see a lot of that, of this cooperative evolution between machines and humans.
Around this, Ted, how can we make the bridge between a future or a perspective which will be more statically not standardized, but things going to be more predictable by analytics and statistics?
Yeah.
And in other way, the future has also to be desirable, to make the future attractive. If we know much more better by a risk management approach to more things more predictable, it depends on the business point of view, a budget planning point of view, a consumer behavior point of view, but for the society, the future has also to be desirable, to be an open door to the unknown.
The future does not have to be desirable because we do not have an option. We must go to the future, whatever it is. This is not our choice. And it is not our choice to buy in the store, oh, I would like 20 units of Belle Epoque and I would like 3 units of the 60s. This is not our choice. We must embrace the future regardless of what it has. And we must make efforts to make it as desirable as possible. But again, we do not have a choice. We will be there sooner than we expect. Now, regarding prediction, we already see this. People are outraged when the 3-day weather forecasts are off by a little bit. Ellen was just talking how it rained today and not yesterday, but before we came to Paris, the prediction it would rain yesterday, not today. And so immediately, almost, people adapt and start using these predictions. But what I see that will be a big change is that we will see 30 and 40-day weather predictions, but they will not be, it will rain at 10 o'clock on 15 days from now. What it will be is a cloud of possibilities. We can predict with a single possibility a few days out, but we cannot predict, and it's theoretically impossible to predict 30 or 40 days out with an exact probability. But what we can do is put a cloud, so it will probably rain that day, but we don't know exactly what time. It will probably rain on one of these 3 days. We do not exactly know what time. And there is a cloud of possibilities. It almost certainly will not rain on all 3 of those days. It will rain only on one of them. And so that cloud of possibilities can express that. We can then plan a cloud of plans against the cloud of possible weather and come up with a cloud of outcomes and now optimize that as we go. So this is a kind of prediction, this is a kind of planning, a kind of budgeting, which we do not do very much right now. Although a few MAPR customers have started doing this. A very large retailer in particular looks at alternatives. Many, possibly thousands of alternatives. Several of our big bank customers, when they look at portfolio value, they do not predict a single value. They predict a cloud of values based on a cloud of possibilities and a cloud of tracks from now into alternative futures. That is what planning will more and more be, is this Monte Carlo evaluation over our transition to an inevitable future. And that will be more and more what statistics means, what predictive analytics means. It will be less and less the idea we had in the 90s, which we now have implemented in many cases, of an exact prediction, an exact emulation. It will instead be very much a cloud of possibilities, an ensemble.
Thank you very much, Ted Dunning, which is the Chief Architect Application or Chief Application Architect, for sharing your insights, background, and
thank you for good questions. This is
opens
always
the
the
door
best
to
thing.
the future.
Yeah, I don't open it and I don't close it. I just try to go through it.
Thank you very much, Ted.
Thank you.
Bye.